Good evening, Robert Scribbler filming for the OBX wave report on this August 13th, Sunday, August the 13th. As we watch some 2 to 3 footers plow on in off the North Atlantic Ocean, and some surfers scramble to try and catch the wave. Ooh, there's a little one there. A nice little section here to the south and east. I did say in the brief that the swell is not as good today as it was yesterday. That may be the case where the tide and wind conditions might be a little bit less favorable. It's just a little choppier. The tide appears to be a little bit higher right now. So the waves aren't forming as well on the sandbar at this time. Nonetheless, I did get a chance to look at the swell. It doesn't really seem like the swell has gotten much smaller. Possibly a little bit with that strong. We have some pretty strong southwesterly winds coming in, and but nonetheless, still waves to be had. As you can see, a big crowd of surfers gathering at a nice little bowl here, south and east of Jeanette's Pier, as the peaks form up at the tip of the bowl, around the bowl on the south and the north side. So just all sorts of rides to be had here at Jeanette's Pier. All right. So right now, conditions at Nags Head, waves in the range of about 2 foot and semi-choppy with those southwesterly winds. East-southeast swell in the range of about 1.5 foot. That's a 10-second interval on that swell. South-south winds blowing at about 15 miles per hour, adding to that chop. Air temperatures rather warm right now, mid to upper 80s. Very humid, feels like the heat dome has reasserted. And ocean water temperatures cooler with those westerly winds, generating that upwelling of the Labrador current, which tends to sit underneath, with ocean water temperatures in the range of about 72 degrees. Heading on down south to Rodanthe, we've got 2 foot waves, semi-clean conditions, east-southeast swell at 1.5 feet and 12 seconds. Southwest winds very strong, or pretty strong and brisk at 17 miles per hour. Air temperatures in the lower to middle 80s. Ocean water temperatures 81 degrees. And down at Buxton right now, 1 foot plus waves, fair conditions. Southeast swell at 1.4 feet and 10 seconds. Southwest winds at 15 miles per hour. 83 degree temperatures down there in Buxton, 81 degree ocean water temperatures. And last of all, we're going to start adding in Frisco, just with wave height observation right now. Frisco is 1 foot plus and choppy. The reason why I'm adding in Frisco is we expect to see some southerly and southwesterly winds to continue and to push up a larger swell as we get in through the week. For the surf forecast, a little bit of a foreshadowing there, because the swell is expected to build from the south and southwest through Friday, and at some locations we expect a rather large swell by the time we get into Friday, in the 3 to possibly even 6 or 7 foot range. We'll have to keep an eye on things and see how they progress. All right, so getting down to the tropics, I do want to provide you guys with some statements, or like an analysis of a report from NOAA and the National Hurricane Center, and just give you guys a update on where we are when it comes to the tropics for this hurricane season. Right now, so far, 5 tropical and subtropical cyclones have formed so far in 2023, and that is actually ahead of the average for this time of year. We do have a record hot Atlantic Ocean that is fueling the cyclone development, and this may override some of the El Nino influences that tend to tamp down cyclone development. And according to NOAA, this is very interesting to me. So far, strong wind shear over the Caribbean has not yet developed, and with a moderate to strong El Nino as what we're experiencing now, we would tend to see strong wind shear starting to develop over the Caribbean at this time, as well as over the adjacent waters, and that has not yet happened. So it's possible that those warmer than normal ocean water temperatures are having an influence on the El Nino effect, which may result in more cyclones forming. And NOAA has thus revised the expected number of tropical cyclones upward to 14 to 21 potential named storms for this year. And if we do hit that range, we will have an above average hurricane season. It is worth noting that some of the other El Nino influences are starting to appear. So, for example, the Bermuda High is further to the east. So if storms do form with that Bermuda High further toward the east and further toward the central Atlantic Ocean, storms would tend to recurve out into the Atlantic Ocean rather than head toward land. So if that occurs, then if we do get a good number of storms and they tend to recurve, we can expect to see a very good swell here on the East Coast from now through October, likely. So, but we don't know that for sure. Of course, these predictions are very rough at this time. We're looking at general climate trends. All right. And these hot waters are really starting to kind of bend the curve toward more frequent storms, but we don't really quite know where they're going to go. Right now, according to the National Hurricane Center, we have no present areas showing a likelihood of tropical cyclone formation within the next 7 days, and that data provided again by the National Hurricane Center. Also, moving on to climate, we are keeping an eye on the terrible fires that impacted Lahaina, and right now we're in a recovery phase and damage assessment phase of this very severe fire, which climatologists and scientists are telling us was impacted by climate change. And so far, according to news reports from NBC, 89 souls lost their lives due to the Lahaina fire so far, and 1,000 people are still missing. And that's a very grave number. That is the worst modern loss of life in a wildfire in the United States. And this wildfire, of course, once again, enhanced by climate crisis driven by fossil fuel burn. All right, and last of all, for climate, right now we are also still monitoring the Antarctic sea ice, and right now the Antarctic sea ice remains at record low levels for this time of year, about 2.5 million or more square kilometers below previous record low levels. So very, very low sea ice for this time of year in the Antarctic. The Antarctic sea ice serves as a buffer for those land glaciers, and we do not want those to melt, because if they do, we're going to see massive sea level rise, and we don't want to see that happen. All right, so thank you for joining me for this session of the OBX Wave Report. I want to just send out the good vibes and the warm thoughts to you all. I hope you guys do get into the water and enjoy some waves today and tomorrow morning. Hopefully we'll continue to see better than expected swell conditions for the Outer Banks as swell kind of rolls in here over the near sandbar at Jeanette's Pier. And as I tend to do, I'd like to ask you guys to please do everything you can to help speed the transition to clean energy being wind, water, solar, and electric vehicles. These are non-emitting sources of energy, no pollution in these sources of energy in use, and the only pollution that comes from them is similar to, materials, any kind of materials production or construction, and which is quite a lot less than fossil fuel burning. And then as the energy inputs into those materials construction becomes more and more renewable, then the carbon cost and the pollution cost of actually producing materials drops as well. That's what we call a virtuous cycle of sustainability. If anyone wants to tell you that clean energy systems like wind, water, solar, and electric vehicles pollute, they're not telling you the truth. You don't have to be mean. Just tell them, hey, That's just not true. And be cool and help support the clean energy transition. We can create lots of jobs and a better world at the same time. All right, so thank you for joining me for this session of the OBX Wave Report as we watch another set roll in toward the sandbar here, and some surfers catch some pretty good rides. Let's see, we'll just hold off while this last peak rolls in. Looks like we've got a couple of surfers in the power zone. Oh, paddle, 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 dudes. All right, yeah, someone dropping in and getting a little fun ride there. All right, so thank you for joining me once again. Ooh, one more swell. I can't stop. All right, thank you guys, and I will be back with you tomorrow for another wave report.